Good morning and welcome to Unusual Activity, powered by FinancialJuice.com with George Avedon and Milton Marmonides. Thank you for joining us this morning, 29th of December, 2014, last 3 trading days of the year of 2014. Certainly no lack of news and activity coming in through the weekend. Again, this week we're anticipating lower than expected volume this week as well. A continuation of the 2-week holiday season here. So let's take a quick check of the futures this morning. S&P 500 futures are lower by 2.5 at 2081.50. That is the low. That is off of certainly off of the low of the morning. We have West Texas Intermediate crude higher by 82 cents at $55.54. We have gold lower by $1.50 at $1,193.80. We have the 10-year at 2.221, again 2.221 on the 10-year. Also on the dollar, always have to keep an eye on the dollar, as we've been mentioning. It has an impact on just about everything, including crude oil and gold. DXY, the U.S. dollar index versus 10 other currencies, at 89.903, lower by 0.127. So let's dive into where we were on Friday to give us a little bit of a clearer picture on what we're heading into this morning. On Friday, really a rather low volume day, very tight trading range. The S&P 500 higher by 0.33% at 2088.77. The Dow Jones Industrial Average higher by 0.13% at 18,053.71. And the Nasdaq higher by 0.17% at 4773.47. Few things that are on the radar this morning as we're heading into the market in just about 28 minutes here. We do, as we said, we do have oil up, and this is mostly attributed to, at the moment, to the Libyan conflict. So we know that in Libya we have a lower output. It has declined to 352,000 barrels per day versus the 1.6 million barrels per day back in 2011. The one other thing is it's actually attracting attention. Sometimes these things don't attract attention worldwide with traders and institutional traders, hedge funds and so forth, but it certainly is attracting attention. Perhaps it's a slower news week or two, so clearly attracting attention here. Libya's NOC says firefighters had managed to extinguish the blaze at 3 of 6 burning oil tanks. That's coming through this morning as well. Also on Libya, oil tank at Libya's ES Cider terminal explodes, according to Sky News. That's several minutes ago. We wanted to put that in. So clearly, Libya has returned to the center of attention, at least for a little bit, and it seems as though markets are reacting to that. So we have to keep that in mind to where the sentiment is, and this is one of the things that we've been seeing over the last several months is as new information is coming in, perhaps something that's startling the markets a little bit, you will have some reaction, specifically in the oil markets that can attribute this, for example, to Libya for now. We'll see how the next several days go. We'll see if this conflict can be contained, and what happens to the oil market in general. So that's something that we're keeping in mind. Also, Russia, as we're finishing up 2014, certainly the ruble has been in focus with respect to certainly volatility. We've all seen that. And Russia's perspective on how they're dealing with the declining value of the ruble with respect to other currencies, of course. What impact does that have on the Russian economy? Relationship with Russia and the West? We know that the we know that the sanctions haven't made an impact. Also, what impact does that have on the Russian people certainly within Russia, and certainly there is an impact on prices domestically in Russia. Those companies that import and export, certainly that has an impact on companies as well. So with respect to specific macroeconomic numbers, the reserves stand at about 398 billion. In about a week's time, they reduced by about $15.7 billion. From the beginning of 2014, a 22% decrease in the reserves with respect to oil and the ruble. Also, in Greece, we had planning on snap elections in January. The austerity party Syriza may win elections, and according to Bank of America, the Greek vote impact on Euro area limited as the ECB drives the markets. This is according to Zero Hedge. So that's something we'll keep an eye on, and so let's continue with this. Certainly, we're keeping an eye on, in addition to Libya, in addition to Russia, in addition to the Greek political situation, always keeping an eye on the ISIL situation going into 2015. Also, keeping an eye on what Russia and will do with the Ukraine in 2015. Will they be pressured enough from a political perspective to step back? And that's, opinions are all over the place, all over the spectrum with respect to what Russia may do. Our perspective is, I think Putin is a unique individual, and he legitimately will want to stick out on the global stage. So I think jury's still out on that. With respect to calendars for this morning, Dallas Fed manufacturing survey at 10:30 a.m. 4-week T-bill auctions at 11. 3-month, 6-month T-bill auction results at 11:30, and then we have the Fed balance sheet at 4:30 and the money supply at 4:30. One of the things that's as normal as we're coming up towards the end of the 2014 calendar year, we concentrate on several things for 2015. So one is the FOMC decisions. When will the Fed begin to raise rates? It seems as though the consensus is around middle to late summer, that July-August time. Now, the other things that's being talked about is the rates, not just the Fed rates, but also the treasuries. There's a lot of folks that in the beginning of 2015 that anticipated, that basically laid their bets for higher rates by the end of 2014. That did not happen. So those folks are back, indicating that they're anticipating the treasuries to be over 3% by the end of 2015. We will see. A lot of analysts were wrong with respect to treasuries going into 2014. Also, We mentioned ECB meeting in January. We'll see what Draghi has to say. Commentary is important always, and central bank decisions. Also, central bank decisions with respect to Japan. It seems as though they're coming back into a recession. That sales tax hike certainly propelled that motion. So also out of China, will China continue to be comfortable with slower growth? We really haven't had much conversation, much discussion globally about that. But again, that's still very much on the radar with respect to traders and investors and hedge fund managers, and institutionals as they're looking at all of this. Also, oil. Where will oil be in 2015? How will the game theory of the OPEC impact the shale drillers? Will shale drillers respond in some way to the lower oil? Also, natural gas. We've seen a consistent natural gas decline recently. Also, we mentioned Russia, Ukraine. What will happen in 2015? Also, Russia going back to Soviet time and their relationship with China. How will that relationship impact not just geopolitics but macroeconomics? And of course, OPEC. Will we see continued commentary from OPEC in 2015, and their impact on oil? Also, certainly macroeconomic. It's certainly proving to be a very interesting end of 2014. Lots of information coming out there, and certainly 2015 will prove to be a very interesting year in terms of activity, news, and the more opinions are out there, the more volatile the market can be in 2015 as opinions range clear across the spectrum, and that's again certainly proving to be proving to be an interesting year in 2015. Would like to do, before we go into the overnight markets, Milt, let's dive into the technical piece of the market. Certainly from Friday, not much happened. We were talking about it before. Technically, it's very similar. I have to ask, what's your thought on Greece? Will the austerity party prove to be the to push to exit the euro, or is this just chatter and a little bit of fear mongering, if you will? What's your thought on that?
I think it's bad. I think it's something no one is even paying attention to. Clearly, the Syriza party is clearly in the lead. They have, from what the latest polls are showing, a 5-6 basis point lead over the New Democracy, which is currently in the parliament now with Samaras. It's a very tricky situation. Syriza has nothing to do with, and does not want anything to do with, austerity or the European issue or anything like that. So you can have a very serious issue, not because it's Greece. Because what happens if Greece does leave? Spain, France, Italy, who's next? And what happens if Greece does leave and they start to turn? Then you're going to have a disastrous and I think a very, very bad situation in the European nations and economies with the euro. That's just my feel. I think no one is paying attention to it. I think everyone's just brushing it away. But come the 25th elections of January, and come Syriza winning those elections, I think it's going to be a very, very bad and very tricky market at that point. What's going to happen if that happens? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But that's just my feel on Greece. I think a lot of people are not paying attention to it. A lot of people are not even understanding what's really going on there. I'll just give you a quick on the technicals. Nothing has changed from our Friday review. The Bulls are, clearly in charge. Watching the 1985 resistance level on the ES, support on the 2070s. Actually, that was 2085 on the ES. Support on the 2070s. Keeping an eye on that. Markets are pretty voluminous this morning. It's not. It's gonna be another week of in my opinion, a sideways action until the new year starts. So I'll just shoot down the numbers real quick. ES, we're looking at 2085 upside resistance, 2070 support. And the VIX, we're in the support level 14. Watching it, seeing if you can base here. Typically what happens to base is then it turns back up. We're going to keep a close eye on it, but right now it's right at support levels. Watching if it breaks that 16 level again. Oil, mentioned every day, $55. Every time we talk, I seem to be like a broken record. It's back to $55. So clearly it's in that technical range, building a base, waiting to see the next step. 53.60 to the downside. We're looking around 58.59 to the upside. Then we can see a consistent move beyond those two levels. Gold, the same thing with the gold. Broke to 1200, hit the mid-level range, back to 1193 right now pre-market, down about $2. It's going to go in that range until another break above 1200 or the ideal break for the bears below 1150. We're keeping an eye on those two numbers, keeping an eye on the levels, and after we get a more significant move, then we can go into greater detail. But as of now, 1200 to the upside, 1150 to the downside, waiting to see if those break with volume. Our feel this week is going to be a very voluminous late week. We have New Year's off, so it's going to be another shortened week in the U.S., so you have to understand that and trade with that notion in mind. Unless something out of left field happens, I don't think we're going to see that much volatility. George?
Thanks, Milt. So, folks, in terms of what we're anticipating, as we're getting into the specifics of the markets, when we went through the macroeconomic geopolitical review with you, as we're getting into the specifics of the market, keep in mind this is you're going to see, a lot of folks are off these, last week and this week. That's going to continue over the next few days. Even, I would say, into Friday, even the day after New Year, January 2nd. Maybe some people come into the office a little bit just to, but in general, volume is anticipated to begin in January, again, after this week. So this week is a great week to begin to build the stock list that you want to monitor in the first quarter of 2015. A great week to look back on 2014 and see what you did right, see what you did wrong. What have you been following? What strategies have been working for you? And type of information you're monitoring on a daily basis, and certainly what's working for you. So let's dive into where we are on the Asian markets. In overnight markets, we had the Nikkei lower by 0.5%, Hang Seng higher by 1.82%, Shanghai higher by 0.33%. In Europe, we are mostly lower. We have the FTSE lower by 0.22%, the CAC in Paris lower by 0.69%, the DAX in Germany lower by 0.82%, IBEX in Spain lower by 2.26%. Quick check of futures. S&P futures still lower by 2.5 points in the U.S. at 2081.75. We're about 12 minutes away from the opening bell. We have crude oil, West Texas Intermediate crude, higher by 59 cents at $55.32. So let's dig into where we are in the commodities. Let's get into the specifics here. Gasoline higher by 0.0136 at 1.5223. Natural gas higher by 0.074 at 3.104. We have heating oil higher by 0.0184 at 1.9263. We have gold lower by $1.90 at $1,193.40. Silver, we're lower by 0.022 at $16.12.5. We have platinum lower by $4.30 at $1,215.60, and cocoa higher by $12 at $29.53. Let's take as we're going through the oil, these are the names that we're watching with respect to ETFs and ETNs. Sorry, let's put this presentation back up here so you folks see our notes as we're preparing for the market. These are the ETFs and ETNs that we're watching coming into this morning. Also, on the rate environment, we have the 5-year 1.723, we have the 10-year 2.221, we have the 30 at 2.789. We'll see, as we mentioned earlier in the show, this reality that a lot of analysts were wrong with respect to where yields would be by the end of 2015. That's a clear wrong direction on a lot of analysts on this yield here. But these analysts are back for 2015. They are absolutely convinced that yields will increase to about over 3% in 2015. So we'll see how that goes. In dollar at 89.9930. We'll take a look at DXY this morning. Remember, DXY has been on a tear recently. We are not as high as we were earlier this morning. Right off the bat, very early, we were at approximately about 90.075. Currently at 89.93. We can also take a look at the euro. Euro futures are off the highs, currently 1.2213. Currently at the high of the morning was 1.2227. So a bit off those highs there. Certainly in relation to the U.S. dollar. So interesting to see that volatility. Remember, the U.S. dollar strength does have an impact not just on the euro, not just on the ruble, but also as companies are preparing to finish up their fourth quarter. What impact does that have on earnings as they're repatriating those funds back into the U.S. And having to deal with a stronger dollar when you're coming out of other countries? So that's something rather interesting. Also, so let's get into specific stocks that are making news this morning. In Barron's, usually over the weekend, they have excellent articles with respect to their outlook on certain stocks, and so they've published their top favorite stock for 2015. Among them are GM, Bank of America, Boeing, American Airlines, Google, Micron, Macy's. We'll take a look and see where they are trading this morning. Royal Caribbean, GILD, Gilead Sciences, and FLR, which is Fluor Corp, based out of Houston, Texas. So currently Fluor indicating at $60.16 this morning. We're about 6 minutes away from the opening bell. Gilead Sciences, we are at pre-market indicating $95.96. RCL, Royal Caribbean, indicating $82.27. Macy's currently at $63.45 in pre-market. Micron at $35.10. Google $532.60. AAL, American Airlines, at $51.50. Bank of America also on the list, as we've said, $17.97. And GM, General Motors, currently at $33.93. We put this up earlier. Mark Mahaney due on CNBC around 8:40. Just commentary from that. Moving on here, APP is reviewing a letter from buyout firm Lion Capital, urging it to consider strategic options, including the sale of the company. Currently indicating at $1.08 in APP, American Apparel. Moving on here, in MTW, Manitowoc, currently indicating at $22.88, 10.58%. Icon stake seeks breakup. So one of the things that we've been monitoring, and this is something that you'll see in unusual activity, is that there are certain option call buying being placed recently, and this is something that's really important that we bring up. Not even occasionally, what you'll see is consistent call buying, or perhaps consistent insider purchases, something that's really positive and or negative that's happening in specific stock, and then maybe in some days along the road, along the line, you'll see a larger event taking place within that particular security. So an MTW, call buying, an MTW, again, you're buying calls, you're positive on the security, and here you have news where it's 10.58% Icon stake. So that's really important here. RXDX, RXDX, we have higher 9.48%. FDA orphan drug, $22.81. I'm sorry, that's incorrect. Sorry, RXDX. Currently at $7 in pre-market. Also, Juno. We have conditions to the company's license agreement with Opus Bio. We're satisfied. So we'll take a, remember, this is a recent IPO. We currently have indication $51.26. ATHX, enrollment of phase 2, currently at $1.30. BEL, positive Barron's mentioned Belmont Limited, currently at $12.80. Bit of an increase from Friday's close. Barron's indicating that it could rise 50%. Also, we'll continue on this. NBG, National Bank of Greece, currently at $1.80. It is lower than the close from Friday. Again, macro negative news from Greece certainly impacting NBG. CEL, lower this morning. Launch of Cellcom TV services, currently at $8.91. And that's Cellcom Israel. AMBA, Ambarella, we have lower this morning, downgraded to underperform, currently at $53. Also, we have some negative commentary from Doherty in GoPro, currently at $67.85. Also, we have ARTX. Simulation unit reports $6.7 million in new orders. Currently, we have the stock indicating at $2.44. We're literally about 2 minutes away from the opening bell in New York. Let's go through some of the upgrades and downgrades that we're picking out this morning. Again, Gilead in the news from Morgan Stanley, currently at $96.24. IPHI. IPHI is currently indicating at $15.87, upgrade from Needham, and MSON, upgrade from Sidoti, currently at $12.98. Let's run through the downgrades that we have this morning. AMBA, again, downgrade at Needham, currently at $52.70. CAVM, Cavian, we have $61.97 downgrade. Needham, LIQ-D, I have a 39 cents this morning downgrade by JMP, MTSI. Also, these are all Needham downgrades. MTSI $31.59. MXL at $6.75. Continuing with the downgrade, RFMD. RF Micro Devices currently at $16.49. SWKS. Skyworks Solution at $73.04, and TQNT Triquint we have it at $27.52. Again, we're just a few seconds away from the morning opening bell in New York. WAI will run. This is a few of the insider purchases this morning. Again, keep in mind, this is keep on saying this, but a relatively low volume day, so you won't see huge amounts of activity throughout the day. But again, anything that we find, pick out, we'll certainly bring that into the unusual activity app. WAI, we have 10% owner purchasing $105,000 worth, currently at $11.50. CTHR, we have director purchasing 100,000 shares, $153,000 in that purchase, and also another $140,000 purchase in CATS. Currently, the stock is $1.80, up about 4.5% this morning. In the morning, syndicates, again, tends to be diluted. We'll see what kind of effect this has on the security. If that has a positive effect on the security, files $100 million mixed security shelf, and also $25.6 million for holders. Again, mixed security shelf is anything from equities to debt, convertibles, preferreds. Stock is currently at $3.15, higher by about 4.5%. So that's where we are. We have the S&P futures a little bit higher than we were this morning, lower by 1.25%. Lower by 2.5 points at 2081.75. Thank you for joining us this morning. This has been Unusual Activity, powered by FinancialJuice.com with George Avedon and Multimer Monites. Wishing you a great day and good hunting.